What happens if a scientist travels back in time from 2012 to 1946 and meets Albert Einstein but accidentally gets killed? By traveling to the past and altering events, the future changes entirely. Let's dive into this story and see how things unfold. The story begins with Gabriel, a scientist and university professor who lives with his wife Marika and their son Ariel. One day, Gabriel needs to travel to a conference out of town and will be gone for 3 days. Marika and Ariel accompany him to the airport to see him off. During this time, Ariel expresses his admiration for his father's watch, and Gabriel promises to give it to him upon his return. After saying their goodbyes, Gabriel boards his flight and departs. 3 days later, Marika attempts to contact Gabriel multiple times but finds his phone consistently switched off. Concerned, she and Ariel head to the airport to pick him up, expecting his return. However, even after a lengthy wait, there's no sign of Gabriel. His flight was due back today, and Marika's worry deepens. Determined to find answers, Marika calls the hotel where Gabriel was supposed to be staying. She learns from the hotel staff that Gabriel never checked out and his phone is still off. Urgently, she requests that the hotel staff inspect Gabriel's room. To her dismay, they discover that while his personal belongings are still there, Gabriel himself is nowhere to be found. From this point, Marika is unsure where Gabriel could have possibly gone. In her search for answers, she contacts her father, Sal, who is also an academic. Sal confirms that Gabriel did visit him, mentioning that Gabriel was working on a secretive project, but he didn't disclose any details about it. Determined to find her husband, Marika decides to travel with her father to another city to continue their search. She leaves her son Ariel in the care of a family friend, Grace. Marika and Sal exhaust all avenues in their quest to find Gabriel, reaching out to all his known associates and visiting places he might have gone. Despite their efforts, there is no sign of Gabriel. It's as if he vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, Marika collects Gabriel's belongings, including his wallet and phone, from the hotel where he was last seen. As time passes, 12 years slip by. Ariel has grown up and is now a college student, residing near his maternal grandfather, Sal. In a twist of fate, Ariel's childhood friend Grace has become his girlfriend, and they are living together. This is the same Grace who looked after him when his mother was searching for Gabriel. On the other hand, Marika remains deeply affected by her husband's mysterious disappearance. Over the last 12 years, the unresolved questions and the shock of losing Gabriel have plunged her into a persistent state of depression. On the other hand, Ariel has grown to be a remarkably intelligent student, especially skilled at unraveling complex equations. His grandfather Sal, who has been teaching him, is well aware of Ariel's capabilities. One day, Sal requests a private meeting with Ariel, and during this meeting, he reveals something startling. Sal explains that he knows the truth behind Gabriel's mysterious disappearance. It was not merely happenstance. According to Sal, Gabriel had been working on a time travel machine 12 years ago and might have actually succeeded. Sal discovered a device among Gabriel's belongings that could potentially create a wormhole, but he has yet to decipher the exact formula needed to activate it, despite years of effort. Sal implores Ariel to help complete this formula, suggesting that if they succeed, they could use the machine to travel back in time and rescue Gabriel. However, Ariel is skeptical and argues against the plausibility of time travel, believing it to be theoretically impossible. Frustrated and convinced that his father is never returning, Ariel goes back home. At home, Ariel finds his mother, Marika, in an increasingly deteriorated state of mental health. He tries to comfort her, but overwhelmed by the situation, he leaves to see Grace. Tragically, the next morning he learns that his mother, in despair, had taken her life with sleeping pills the previous night. This news devastates Ariel even further, compounded by his guilt for having left Marika alone in her darkest hours. Burdened by guilt over his mother's death, Ariel decides to meet with Sal and commit to working on the time machine formula. The task proves to be daunting, and for many months, Ariel and Sal work tirelessly on developing the machine. During this period, Sal shares his belief that Gabriel might have traveled back in time to the year 1946, a theory based on documents from that era found among Gabriel's possessions. Throughout the research, Ariel keeps his activities somewhat secretive from his girlfriend Grace. However, she eventually discovers that Ariel has been working on a time travel project. Meanwhile, Ariel uncovers a crucial piece of evidence that adds a heartbreaking layer to the mystery of his father's disappearance. He finds a newspaper clipping from 1946 reporting the death of an unidentified man who was shot by thieves. The photograph accompanying the article shows the deceased man wearing the very watch Gabriel promised to give Ariel, a watch Ariel recognized immediately. This discovery confirms Ariel's worst fears. His father had indeed succeeded in traveling back to 1946, but met a tragic end at the hands of thieves, explaining why he never returned and why his body was never found after he vanished 12 years ago. ago. Driven by this revelation, Ariel dedicates himself even more fervently to completing the time machine, hoping to perhaps change the past, or at least understand it better. However, the story is far from over, and a significant twist still lies ahead, promising to further complicate Ariel's quest and possibly change everything he believes about his father's fate. Grace urges Ariel not to pursue time travel, warning that altering the timeline could have unforeseen consequences, including the possibility that they might never end up together. She explains her concerns further, reminding Ariel that their relationship solidified when he stayed with her after his father disappeared. If the timeline changes and Gabriel never vanishes, Ariel might never have sought refuge with Grace, and their paths might not have crossed in the same way. Amidst this emotional conversation, Grace reveals another compelling reason for Ariel to reconsider his plans. She is pregnant with his child. This revelation forces Ariel to weigh his desire to correct the past against the potential of a promising future with Grace and their unborn child. Faced with this pivotal decision, Ariel ultimately chooses his future with Grace over the past, promising her that he will abandon the time travel project and not alter any events. This decision leaves the project incomplete, as Ariel's expertise was crucial to its success. Sal is deeply disappointed, but Ariel is resolute in his choice to move forward with Grace. They begin to build a life together, finding a new home and preparing for their new arrival. However, tragedy strikes when Grace has a miscarriage, losing the child who represented the future Ariel had chosen over his past. Devastated by this loss and reeling from the turn of events, Ariel reevaluates his earlier decision. The miscarriage reshapes his perspective, igniting a renewed determination to change the past after all. Feeling he has little left to lose, Ariel decides to revisit the time travel project, aiming to save his father and alter the timeline, despite the risks and the unknown consequences that might follow. Determined to change the course of events, Ariel reassures Grace that he will make every effort to ensure they are together in the new timeline he aims to create. Despite his reassurances, Grace remains deeply uneasy about the implications of meddling with time, but Ariel, driven by a blend of grief and resolve, decides not to heed her concerns this time. He reconnects with Sal, committed to altering the timeline. Together, they finalize the formula for the time machine. With the calculations for Earth's rotation fine-tuned, the machine is finally ready to transport Ariel to the year 1946. Knowing the dangers he faces in attempting to save his father, Ariel prepares by arming himself with a gun. He then travels back to 1946 with the machine's aid, orchestrated by Sal. Meanwhile, the narrative shifts to reveal a scene from 12 years earlier, where Gabriel is at the airport, poised for his own time travel journey. Gabriel's mission was not just exploratory, he needed to manage the side effects of time travel and its impact on the timeline. His goal was to meet Albert Einstein in 1946, a crucial part of his time travel undertaking. As both father and son journey through time independently, Ariel arrives in 1946 shortly after his father. He heads straight for Albert Einstein's residence, hoping to intercept Gabriel there. However, upon arrival, he finds that Einstein is not home at the moment. Deciding to wait, Gabriel chooses a nearby cafe as his temporary base, unaware that Ariel is also in the same time period, searching for him to alter their fates. Ariel tracks down Gabriel at the cafe and approaches him, urgently explaining that he is his son and has traveled from the future to save him. Initially skeptical, Gabriel struggles to accept Ariel's extraordinary claim. To convince him, Ariel shares intimate details about America and their family life, details only a close family member would know. Convinced by Ariel's knowledge of personal matters, Gabriel begins to trust him. Ariel then reveals the grim reason for his journey. He shows Gabriel a newspaper article detailing his own death, which is set to occur that very night. Ariel explains the dire consequences of Gabriel's death. It would lead to years of suffering for America and himself. He implores Gabriel to return with him to the future to avoid this tragic outcome and mend their broken family timeline. However, Gabriel, driven by a deep sense of purpose, unexpectedly refuses to leave. He insists that he cannot go back without fulfilling his mission to meet Albert Einstein, believing it to be crucial. Despite knowing the risk of his impending death, Gabriel resolves to stay indoors that night to avoid the fatal encounter. He then invites Ariel to join him in his time travel project, seeing an opportunity to work together with his son on the significant scientific endeavor he believes is worth the risks involved. In a desperate bid to change his father's mind, Ariel confronts Gabriel with the harsh realities of his decisions. He vividly describes the aftermath of Gabriel's death, including America's subsequent suicide and his own childhood growing up fatherless. Ariel questions whether Gabriel's project is worth more than their family. Despite Ariel's emotional plea, Gabriel remains steadfast, citing years of dedication to his work as his reason for not abandoning the project. Feeling cornered and out of options, Ariel takes a drastic step to force his father's hand. He pulls out a gun, aiming it at himself, and declares that by killing killing himself, he would effectively force Gabriel to return to the future and rewrite history to prevent this moment. Before Gabriel can react, Ariel pulls the trigger, ending his life in a tragic bid to change his father's priorities. Devastated by the sight of his son's sacrifice, Gabriel is moved to tears and finally resolves to prioritize his family over his project. He decides to return to his original timeline, using the knowledge and the gravity of Ariel's actions to guide him. This time, he successfully travels back, arriving home alive on the third day, to the relief of Marika and young Ariel. As Gabriel reunites with his family, the narrative hints at the presence of young Grace, leaving a lingering question about the future of Ariel and Grace's relationship in this newly altered timeline. The movie concludes on this bittersweet note, inviting viewers to reflect on the costs and implications of time travel. The screen fades to black,